Fanboy Friday with Mark Walters and Robert Miguel.
Coyote Country 104.9.
That's right, time again for Fanboy Friday. So with me on the phone, checking in from Big D, Dallas, Texas, professional Q&A moderator and speaker, film critic at BigFanboy.com, and show director at the Dallas Comic Show, Mark Walters. Good morning, sir.
What is up, Robert? I think we survived the snap.
Oh, yeah? Oh, man, I tell you what, man, I'm still reeling over that movie. So awesome, so good.
How many times have you seen it now?
I've seen it twice now. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And I really enjoyed it the second time around. I caught a couple of, things, a little more detailed, and got to, do a little bit more critical thinking, some things that I didn't catch the first time around. But, man, I'm telling you what, man, Avengers Endgame, awesome. Just, I can't wait to watch it again, honestly. So,
Did you by chance catch Howard the Duck in the big fight scene at the end?
You know what? No, I don't think I did. Did I?
It's like a brief split-second cameo, and you have to know exactly where to look. But I was just really happy to see that they, talk about going the extra mile,
Right.
and including every character they could fit in there. It was just incredible to see that. So.
Yeah, it's still fantastic. And of course now, Memorial Weekend's coming up pretty soon, so all the big summer movies are going to hit pretty hard soon. Not some shabby ones this week. I know the new John Wick 3 comes out today, and I know you saw that last week, right?
I did, yeah. I was very excited about this. I really enjoyed the John Wick films. And
can I say something real quick? Let me say this.
Sure.
This is just, I hate this because I love Keanu Reeves. I kind of dig action movies, of course. We're talking like I love Keanu Reeves. One of my favorite movies is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. And just by the merit of him being in that alone, I will watch anything, that he does. But for some reason, I missed John Wick 1 in the theater. And then I walked in towards the end of my brother and my father watching it. And I found out at the end, I guess everybody knows the ending of John Wick now, right? Why he went to kill him?
I think the statute of limitations is probably up on the first movie.
Okay.
Since it came out 5 years ago.
Yeah, so everybody thinks he's avenging the death of his wife or something like that, and it's really he's going after the killers because they killed his dog, right?
Well, there's more to it than that. I think a lot of people try to dumb it down to that.
Right.
But, basically what the first movie was, John Wick was this incredible assassin that was like, he had this very, very incredible reputation. Everybody knew this was a guy you did not mess with. And he had kind of semi-retired. He had met a woman, they fell in love, she got sick, and she died, very suddenly and very tragically. And one of the things that she left him when she died was a puppy, because she knew that, he needs something to kind of get him through the fact that she's no longer there.
Uh-huh.
So he gets this adorable puppy, and then, while he's trying to grieve, a bunch of bad guys show up and try to kill him, and in the process of trying to kill him, they shoot and kill his dog, his puppy.
Right.
And then, of course, John Wick doesn't die, so now it's kind of like they flipped the switch. So, yes, they did kill his dog, and he's mad that they killed his dog. But that's not the only reason that he's going after these guys. There's a little more to it than that. So if anybody tries to say, I've heard people say that, John Wick killed a bunch of guys because they killed his dog.
Right.
And it's like, no, that's not all there is to it. There's more to it than that. So, in my mind, the thing I loved about the first John Wick movie was that it was kind of a throwback to these classic revenge movies like Death Wish or what's the Lee Marvin movie? Payback was a remake of it. I can't remember the name of the original film, but kind of those Lee Marvin, Charles Bronson revenge of like the 80s and the late 70s and stuff like that. And I really respected it because of the fact that that's what it felt like, and they do some really incredible stuff because the guys that directed these movies, Chad Stahelski has directed all 3 of them. The first movie was a co-directing job, but the guys that directed these movies were former stuntmen. Mm-hmm. So what you get in the movie is you get these incredible fight sequences, whether it's hand-to-hand combat or a gun shootout or a car chase or whatever the case may be. Every single action scene in these movies is like a ballet. It's beautifully choreographed. It's unlike anything you've ever seen before. And they just continue to kind of top themselves. So that's the thing, to me, like when people say, well, what's the reason I should see these John Wick movies? I always say, you see them for the action scenes. The action scenes are incredible. That's the reason that you want to check these films out. So I would always tell people that in that regard, and hope that they would see it and enjoy it for that. The stories themselves behind the films are, they're pretty simplistic. Most revenge films are. Mm-hmm. Some guy gets wronged. He wants to go, he wants to get back at the guys that wronged him, and that's basically the whole story. But the thing that's been really impressive to me about the John Wick movies is that the first film really kind of establishes his character and who he is, and the fact that he is so kind of notorious, for this kind of being this legendary hitman. And they also established that there's a place that he can go to called the Continental Hotel. And the Continental Hotel is run by a guy named Winston, who's played by Ian McShane. The great thing about the Continental Hotel is it's a safe haven for assassins. So if you're an assassin and you go into that hotel, the second you're on hotel grounds, you cannot conduct business. You certainly cannot kill anybody. So, and if you do either one of those things, the punishment is death.
Right.
So, it's kind of this interesting thing that they set up in the first movie, and then in the second movie, they sort of explain that a little bit further, and we learn, and this is one of the things I think is so great about these films. They've done some really interesting world building, almost kind of like what Marvel did with their films, that, every film that comes out, you learn a little bit more about what's going on with, these characters and where they come from. And you start to realize that, like the Continental Hotel, for example, that all across the world, there is a Continental Hotel type of place that you can go to that's like a safe haven if you're an assassin. So, like, in John Wick 2, he goes to Italy, and Franco Nero shows up as, like, the guy running the hotel that he goes to stay in. And it's just kind of this great, sort of establishing world building and whatnot. Lawrence Fishburne shows up in Part 2 as a character that is, looks kind of like a bum, but basically you realize that there's a bunch of, like, bums that are actually, like, assassins undercover that have, like, their own kind of faction and whatnot.
Wow.
And that's one of the things I really loved about the second film was the second film, it really stretched out the mythology of what John Wick was about, and the fact that these people are all over the world. Like, I mean, there are leagues of assassins that are, like, ruling the streets. There are leagues of assassins that rule the churches. There are leagues of assassins that rule office buildings. Like, they're everywhere. So, like, there's a great moment at the end of John Wick 2 where you realize that Winston, the guy that runs the Continental Hotel, you realize just how much power he has. He, like, basically kind of snaps his fingers and everybody stops in place in, like, a public park. And you realize, oh, my God, like, he has that kind of control. And so I think it really shows you that the universe that John Wick exists in, that it's really a lot more complex and interesting. So going into John Wick Chapter 3, which opens this weekend, and I will say that if you've never seen the John Wick movies, you really should.
All right.
Because if you try to go see Part 3, you're really going to be lost.
Ain't going to get it.
There's a lot of stuff that relates to the first two films. In the second film, especially at the end of the second film, the guy that has put a hit out on John Wick and has put a bounty on his head, John Wick actually, spoiler alert for those of you that haven't seen it, but John Wick kills the guy at the end of the second movie, but he kills him while he's in the Continental Hotel.
Oh.
So now it's kind of like, okay, dude, all bets are off.
Big
You're
no-no.
no longer safe. You have nowhere to hide. And now, not only is there a bounty out on your head, but now you literally have no safe haven.
Oh,
so
wow.
the third movie opens up immediately after the second movie ended, and John Wick is now on the run, and he has nowhere to go. Because everywhere he goes, like, that they really establish, like, when the bounty is put out on his head, you see these people in the street, and their cell phones ring, and they look at their cell phone, and they look up, and they see John Wick, and they start chasing after him.
Wow.
I mean, that's how dangerous this world is. So John Wick is very much on the run and trying to keep himself alive. And in the process, he basically decides he wants to try to go straight to the top. Like, he wants to go talk to the people that are in charge of all of this, that basically control everything. And that kind of becomes his mission. And along the way, we meet one of his old friends, Sophia, who's played by Halle Berry, who is really terrific in this film. She's great. She has really great action sequences as well. And, we're treated to the classic John Wick, kind of, chase scenes, fight scenes, gunfights, all the stuff that you've come to expect from those films just ramped up even more. I dare say, and this is a bold statement for me to say this, but this is easily the most violent John Wick film. Like, the first two John Wick movies were very violent movies. This movie is even more violent. This movie, like, takes it up, turns it up to an 11, to use Spinal Tap reference. But, you know, it's very fun at the same time. You know, there's a lot of fun moments to it. And, again, you get more of that great world building that they did in the second film that, you know, kind of even, you know, expands this universe even further. Mark Dacascos, who you may know from movies like Brotherhood of the Wolf, he plays one of the main bad guys in the film, and he's terrific. He's really good foe to go up against Keanu Reeves. But, yeah, I also enjoyed the fact that this film in particular kind of deals with the concept of, I guess you could say, that classic trope of honor among thieves, in the sense that there are moments in this movie where, like, characters that are fighting John Wick, they kind of stop down for a beat to recognize the fact that, hey, this is John Wick we're fighting. Like, this is a legend. You know, like, instead of just taking a cheap shot and killing him off, you know, they're kind of like saying, hey, we want to savor this moment and whatnot. And I really respected that, because it sort of showed that, like, even among these assassins that are basically all trying to kill one another, they still respected the legacy of this guy and who he was. And I just thought that was a really cool element that they sort of added into this film. And another thing this film does that I thought was great is that it really works well as the third part of a trilogy, and in terms of being cohesive and kind of tying together the first two movies with this movie, while at the same time setting up events to where they easily could do another movie. Like, they could do a fourth film, or they could do spin-off films. They could do prequel films. They could do all sorts of things with this franchise to just kind of keep it going. So it's going to be very interesting to see where it goes from here. I also am going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that I do think this is the best of the John Wick movies. I think it's the best of the trilogy, but probably only because it works so well as a connecting board for those three movies. I think that if you watch the first two movies by themselves, you know, you would have to choose which one you like better. This movie, I think, is the best because of the fact that it works as great connective tissue for all three films. So I really enjoyed it a lot. It's terrific. I think my only complaint, and it's such a minor one, is I think it runs about 2 hours and 11 minutes. And there are a couple of moments in the film where it feels like it kind of overstays its welcome a little bit. Like, some of the fight scenes go on a little bit long. But, man, it's never boring. It's always exciting and fun. And honestly, Robert, I can't wait to see it again.
Man,
Great.
I'm telling you what, man, you sound super excited about it. That's probably one of the most shining reviews you've given in a while, Mark. So it's really exciting. Again, we've been talking about John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum. It's out in theaters this weekend, and I'm looking forward to seeing Keanu. And I've got to catch up on the first two because, you know, I'm a movie buff, but somebody spoiled the first one for me, so I never saw one or two. So I'm going to be on cable and Redbox and getting caught up so I can see that. Because, man, you got me all pumped now.
Well, I'll just say this much. As far as those first two movies go, like I said, they're basically, when you get right down to it, they're just revenge films.
Right.
So, you know, you're not really spoiling too much for yourself other than maybe knowing, like, the motivations of the character and whatnot. But, I mean, look at it this way, Robert. Like, when we were kids and we were watching, like, Chuck Norris movies on cable and stuff like that, if somebody came up to you and spoiled the plot of one of those movies, do you think you still wouldn't be entertained by it?
Oh, no. I know I'd love it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So that's how I would say with these movies, like, if somebody has tried to spoil it for you, don't worry. They're still entertaining films. I would definitely recommend going out and catching the first two. If you're going to see this movie, if you have any intention of seeing this movie, please see the first two movies first. Do not go into this movie without seeing the first two movies. I'm telling you, you're going to be lost.
Right on. Again, John Wick, Chapter 3, Parabellum, rated R, 2 hours, 11 minutes in theaters now. Now, you know, you don't want to kill John Wick's dog, but there's another dog movie coming out this weekend, A Dog's Journey, which...
That's your segue?
That's my segue.
That's your segue.
Hey, come on. Hey. But yeah, so A Dog's Journey, the third part of these dog movies, right?
Yes, this is based on the books written by W. Bruce Cameron. It started off with The Dog's Purpose, and then A Dog's Way Home, and now A Dog's Journey. Now, I had a chance earlier this year. It's kind of funny when I think about it because it hasn't been that long. But they actually put out the movie A Dog's Way Home earlier this year, and I think we talked about it. If I seem to remember, we talked about it on the show. But that movie, it's such a wonderful, heartwarming family film, like just kind of a throwback to the good old days of family movies where you could take the kids and just enjoy it. And it gets you in all the right moments. It's very emotional, tugs at your heartstrings, but it's a beautiful movie. And so, this is kind of the third part of that trilogy, if you will. Although this movie in particular really kind of connects itself back to A Dog's Purpose, which came out a couple of years ago and starred Dennis Quaid, who's back in this movie as well. Right. Now, I haven't had a chance to see the new movie, so I can't comment on whether or not this one is as good as the other ones is. I will say I loved A Dog's Way Home. I thought A Dog's Way Home was a real treat of a film. I don't know. I'm not sure why they decided to put these movies out so close together, because I think A Dog's Way Home came out in February, and here we are in May, just 3 months later, and now we're already getting another chapter in that sequence of films. But I'm still going to give it a shot. I'll probably check it out this weekend, and maybe I can talk about it on next week's show. As someone who used to be a dog owner, I don't currently own a dog, but I love dogs, and I love dogs in movies. And I'm kind of a big sucker for, movies like this where, animals go on adventures and stuff like that, whether it's animated or live action. I just enjoy those types of films if they're done well. So I'm looking forward to this. I want to see what they do with it.
Well, right on. Again, that's A Dog's Journey. That's going to be 1 hour, 48 minutes, rated PG. That's in theaters this weekend also. Anything else to talk about? Any new trailers, new information? I know there's all kinds of movies coming out soon, right?
Yeah, we posted a couple of things up at Big Fanboy. You can check out a new look at the movie Brightburn. This is a very interesting-looking horror film. It's produced by James Gunn, and basically the concept is, what if Superman, when he landed on Earth as a little boy and started to discover powers, what if he was evil? Like, what if he realized he had these powers, but then he was like this evil little boy and started doing a bunch of really nasty, evil stuff? And I think that's really an interesting idea for a horror movie. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've certainly seen horror movies that are similar, but I don't think we've ever seen kind of a twist on a classic superhero story like that. So I think that's going to be really interesting to see what they do with that. We posted a couple clips up from that movie if you haven't seen it yet. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. If you guys are John Wick fans, we are going to post up a contest over the weekend at BigFanboy.com where you could win a shirt that says the Continental on it. It's basically a shirt that says the name of the hotel. Uh-huh. You could win one of those. So you check out BigFanboy.com over the weekend. We'll have a contest on that. The other trailers that we posted up that I wanted to mention were there's a new sequel to the movie Maleficent, which starred Angelina Jolie. She's back in that role, doing a follow-up to that film. So that should be kind of interesting. I actually really enjoyed that first Maleficent
Yeah, me
movie.
too, yeah.
If you guys missed the trailer for It Chapter 2, we've got that as well. And then if you guys were fans of the movie Hereditary, which came out last year, the director of that film, Ari Aster, he's got a new movie coming out called Midsommar, which is about a couple that goes to a small village in Sweden. It's kind of like a summer getaway type of thing, but things turn really weird and evil and crazy. And I think what's really kind of creepy and unnerving about that trailer is that it all takes place in the daytime. So it's like people outside, daylight, and all this crazy stuff is going on. Huh. And that looks really, really interesting. So check out that trailer as well.
Well, right on. Again, everybody go to BigFanboy.com. Check out the trailers. Get in on that John Wick contest. And, Mark, anything else you want to mention?
The only other thing I was going to talk about was Dallas Comic Show will be back on August 10th and 11th. We've got some cool stuff going on there. If you're a Back to the Future fan,
yes,
you'll definitely want to keep tabs on what's happening at Dallas Comic Show August 10th and 11th. Just check out DallasComicShow.com for more information.
Well, right on. Once again, let's give it up to professional Q&A moderator and speaker, film critic at BigFanboy.com, and show director at Dallas Comic Show, and dog lover, the one and only Mark Walters.
Thank you, Robert. I appreciate it.
Fanboy Friday with Mark Walters and Robert Miguel.
Coyote Country 104.9.